5 years ago, on a day that none of us will ever forget, 2 towers came down. More than 2,700 lives were lost. And our world, or at least our understanding of it, was forever changed. September 11th, 2001 was a day of unimaginable horror, but also of unforgettable acts of bravery and humanity. Only a handful of people survived the destruction of the Twin Towers, and the incredible story of 2 of them is told in the new movie from Oliver Stone, World Trade Center.
Can you still see the light?
For the next half hour, we'll be joined by the director and the stars of this powerful film, by one of the men who inspired it, and by a group of young people who, like all of us, each were impacted in their own way by the events of 9/11. Please join us.
Roll call working Tuesday, September 11. Color for the day is green. As always, protect yourselves, watch each other's backs. We got to evacuate the tower. Who's coming? Step forward.
I got it, Sergeant.
I'll go. All right. Follow me. Stay together.
Can you still see the light?
Today, it looks very much like a construction site. But what you guys are looking at, for many, is hallowed ground. Of course, it's ground zero, the site on which, up until 5 years ago, stood the buildings of the World Trade Center. Today, we're coming to you only a couple hundred yards from that site, inside the Regal Cinemas Battery Park Stadium 11 movie theater. How you doing, everybody? I'm John Norris, and today we've assembled quite a panel to talk about a very special new movie, an inspiring film called World Trade Center, the true story of 2 Port Authority police officers who survived hours buried in the wreckage of the towers. And joining us today, a special panel, the director of World Trade Center, Oliver Stone. Thank you, sir, for being here. Nicolas Cage, who plays Sergeant John McLaughlin. Michael Pena, who plays Officer Will Jimeno, and on that note, the man whose story, without whom we wouldn't even be here today, Port Authority Police Officer Will Jimeno himself. Will, thank you for being here. Thanks to all you guys for being here. As well as to all you guys, we've assembled about, I guess about 30 young people here, all of whom have their own particular take on what happened on 9/11, I'm sure, as we all do. And they've all got questions for you guys. But I want to start, Oliver, by asking you about, you know, to do a September 11th film, and there's so many stories one could have chosen. Why this particular story? Why is this the one that you wanted to be part of and help bring to the screen?
Well, first of all, I didn't start it. It came to me from the producers and the writer, Andrea Berloff. And it was a microcosmic story about, and a true one, and it was a story that you cannot resist telling. It has to be told. It's a great story. 2 men get buried in the rubble, their wives and them go through hell. And then they're rescued in the most improbable way by an accountant who comes from Connecticut. He's an ex-Marine. He wanders down to Manhattan, illegally goes through the barricades and enters the World Trade Center at night when most people are withdrawing, and finds Will Jimeno at 7:30 or 8 o'clock at night. From there proceeds an incredible rescue against all odds, and the men are finally pulled out at midnight and at 7:30 in the morning. Although it sounds simple, is the basis of a great movie.
And Nick and Michael, I was to be part of a film that, as Oliver says, takes sort of a microcosm look at the events of that day, rather than tries to maybe be too ambitious or be the definitive World Trade Center film. Did that appeal to you?
Well, you know, what really appealed to me was when I read the script, that it was so positive. It was a story of survival and the human spirit overcoming this incredible series of obstacles, this real-life tragedy. And I just immediately knew that I wanted to do it. I had been trying to find a way that I could apply my abilities to something meaningful, something that could even be healing in some way. It really was the answer to my prayers.
Well, the thing that I liked about it is that I thought I knew everything about, you know, the World Trade Center, or at least, you know, like the basics of what happened. And this story goes beyond that, not just when, you know, the towers come down, and it gives us a story that I don't think too many people out there knew about. I certainly didn't. And I thought that, you know, I wanted to be a part of it.
All right, guys, do we have an order here? Do you know who's got the first question? Yeah, what's up?
My question is for Oliver. My name is Crosby, from the Lower East Side of Lower Manhattan, a native of New York for 21 years. After seeing your film, I felt the salt on my wounds were burning hot. I felt as if the movie was made too soon. I'd like to know how you feel about that.
Well, that's certainly a valid reaction. Some people may feel that, and I could understand. It hurts. I believe that wounds are best looked at quickly to heal.
I don't truly understand the criticism in that it is the right time and that the movie exists. It is meant to be here right now for some reason. You don't have to go see this movie, but the movie is healing, and it is positive. There's no downer. It ends on a positive note. This is a big, big tragedy, but it works on every level, and I think that's why, if you choose to see it, it will be a rewarding experience for you.
Crosby, I understand where you're coming from. You're 21, you say. Me and John, we don't know how long we're going to be around. What we saw in that mall is something that we need to leave for generations, for your kids to see. If you don't capture that today, 10, 15 years from now, you and everybody else are going to assume what happened. And I'm there with you. When I saw the film, it hurt. But at the same time, when I came out, I saw the bigger picture. At a tragedy, if we don't take the positive out of a tragedy, it would have been a tragedy. And if we don't get the facts now, you're going to lose the truth. And I don't know how you feel about that, but me, I'd rather have the truth now. Let's take those lessons and learn from them. Because if not, they're going to fade away, and that would be a sin.
We've got many more questions and hopefully many more answers here at the Regal Battery Park, including the lengths to which these guys went to make sure that World Trade Center was as true to life as possible. Stick around.
We got to evacuate the tower. Who's coming? Step forward.
I got it, Sarge.
I'll go.
I'm with you, Sarge.
All right, we got a team. We're headed into Building 5. The rest of you wait for Kazmatis. Follow me. Stay together.
We're back with the World Trade Center movie special coming to you today just across the street from where the Twin Towers once stood. And we're joined once again by Nick Cage and Michael Pena from the movie World Trade Center, director Oliver Stone, as well as Port Authority police officer Will Jimeno, one of the very few people who actually survived the collapse of those buildings. And as you guys may have seen in the film, 20 people, and you and John were 18 and 19. I lived 6 blocks from Ground Zero that morning, and I heard the first plane come over. I remember it like it was yesterday. Is it difficult for you to be down here in this part of town, and how vividly do you remember it?
No, it's not difficult for me. I mean, I made my peace with Ground Zero, and I like to see us getting on our feet again. I want to see the towers built again. You know, if it was up to me, they'd be built the way they were, you know, and just make them stronger. So, no, I actually love coming back down here and seeing the rebuilding.
You remember Starsky and Hutch? When I was a kid, it was on TV. And remember the theme song? When that would come on, I'd run around the house and arrest my sister Karen.
My question is directed towards Nick, Michael, and Will. I would like to know how true to life the actual script was. Like, for example, the conversation portrayed about Starsky and Hutch, where you were telling him about the theme song or the apparition that you had about Jesus, was it actually true life events or was it just part of the script?
I think...
Yeah, I mean, it would be like...
Well, I can speak for the Jesus part. That actually happened. And yes, that is 100% true. The Starsky and Hutch, I know Oliver, that actually did not happen, but conversations of joking around did happen down there. In the hole, when the rescue started, there was a lot of joking around, and that happens in police work because you can't run at that level. You'll blow up. And I think the Starsky and Hutch, which I did love Starsky and Hutch growing up, I really did, was something very important in this film in retrospect, because it allows you to alleviate some emotion, and it's okay to laugh a little bit because you need it in this film. You really do.
Oliver, is this, of all your movies, the one that you went to the greatest lengths to get right in terms of historical accuracy?
I always go to great lengths. But often you don't have people around who are survivors like this.
Right.
I always have tried to get the details right, always.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've never seen a director have more attention to detail than Oliver Stone. I mean, his script was black with notes. I mean, he was constantly viewing and reviewing and asking questions and trying to really get all the details right. So the whole rehearsal process was like that, very, very thorough.
Okay, as an actor myself, I was just wondering, what specific things did you have to prepare for this role? Like, were there anything, what was your process?
To begin with, John McLaughlin, he allowed me to interview him and helped explain to me what the experience was like. And he used the words, how to solve the pain. I always thought that was very interesting. He was talking about solving the pain he was literally going through physically. So when I was in the hole, I would remember these conversations I had with John and the way he spoke and looked at the videos we took of him and get the mannerisms down. But I would also try to, and this is the part that's hard to put into words, I tried to find a way to kind of go inside myself and utilize my imagination, because I can't really know what Will Jimeno and John McLaughlin went through. But I can maybe go inside and trick my mind in such a way that I can imagine it. And through my imagination, I can create it. And I'm speaking to you as an actor to an actor. That is your greatest gift. That is your greatest tool, is your ability to use your imagination. Because I was trying to understand what it would be like. It occurred to me during the rehearsal that they were in darkness, too. So to go through that pain and not be able to see each other. And I brought this up with Oliver, and he suggested we go into sense deprivation isolation tanks. And so we were in there for like an hour in total darkness, and you can't really hear and you can't feel because you're floating in 2 inches of water, which is mixed with 900 pounds of salt. And you start tripping, and the mind starts going. You have to get on top of the fear. And I thought that was helpful for this.
Yeah, I know. I remember being in there, and I was like, I hate Oliver. I hate Oliver. I hate his face, you know? Like, I didn't know why I was doing it. I'm like, why am I doing this? I'm just going to act.
But, you know, when I asked you about it, you said, I felt like I was being born.
No,
you didn't tell me you were that freaked out.
No. The first 10 minutes, I thought I was a fetus, but after that, I was like, after that, I was like, I hate it. I stood there for 3 hours. After that, like, it really helped, with the filming.
I have a question for Oliver. I'm particularly interested in your feelings about the potential of this movie to sway public opinion about the war in Iraq.
I think you asked the wrong person, because my experience has been a disillusioning one insofar as I made 3 films about Vietnam. Platoon, Born on the 4th of July, and Heaven and Earth. And it seemed like nobody listened, because a lot of the, I remember that, Platoon, for example, you're all too young to remember, Platoon went around the world. It was a low-budget film that was a shot around the world. It was just heard. And, you'd think at that time in the 80s that we'd put war behind us as a reptilian, archaic form. And Vietnam seemed like one of the last wars, honestly. But sure enough, it started up in the 80s again, and the militarism increased. And the movies contributed, from Black Hawk Down to Pearl Harbor. The concept of awe of technology was evident in movies. So I have a very limited view of what movies can do.
When we return, we'll meet the kids of Port Authority police officer John McLaughlin, the character portrayed by Nicolas Cage in Oliver Stone's new movie, World Trade Center.
Stay here, okay? What's wrong?
Dad and Uncle Pat have a deal. If anything happens to one of them, they go and tell the other family.
Are you here to tell me something? Don't come in here, Pat. I mean it. Don't you come into this house.
Donna, he's not. We don't know. We don't know.
He declared him as missing. That's all. He's just missing.
I know. I'm with you. Come here.
I think this movie is too soon. It's too soon. It's less than 5 years ago these people died.
Everybody was concerned that this could be too much of a political undertone for Oliver Stone. And at the end of the day, I think it worked more as a tribute to all these heroes rather than something that would stir up a good controversy.
It leaves you with a very important message, which I think is something great that comes out of a horrible tragedy, is don't take anything for granted.
We are back at the Regal Cinemas Battery Park, just a stone's throw away from Ground Zero. You guys, I want to ask you about, because we've talked earlier in the show about how this is very specific to the story of Will and John and what happened to them that day. Is having the title World Trade Center, does it give the impression, do you think, that it's more of a overview, a definitive kind of sweeping look at everything that happened at the World Trade Center that day? Anyone?
Well, I saw it as just sort of geographical, that this is where this actually happened. It is at the World Trade Center.
At the epicenter.
At the epicenter. So it's no different than a movie titled Pearl Harbor or Battle of Waterloo. I mean, it's where it occurred.
Battle of Algiers.
Yeah.
What was the recreating the rubble, the pit, Ground Zero, on a soundstage in Los Angeles? How challenging was that? And what was the feeling of walking on there the first time you guys saw it?
I don't know how Oliver did it. I mean, it's remarkable when you see the movie how believable it looks, and the feeling was overwhelming, really. I mean, it helped with all of us, I think, trying to, with our imaginations, recreate in some small way what John and Will's experience might have been like.
All right, who's next?
Speaking of the realness of the movie and how it was, how you did try to accurately portray it, I was just curious if you'd ever considered doing this as a documentary instead of a fiction film, and why it became a fiction film, and also, as a fiction film, why the decision was made to film it in a very conventional Hollywood fictionalized sense.
I understand your question. Certainly United 93 would be in that mold, in the mold you talk about, which would be, I would call it cinema verite. This movie was done in traditional Hollywood standards of making emotional connections with the audience with 4 characters. It was tightly spun. We're making movies for a mass worldwide audience, not just for film school students. And I know that you like cinema verite, and I do too, and I've made those films too. Look at JFK, it's done very much in that style. But I didn't feel it for this. I feel this is classical, and it should be a modest and simple film along the old ways.
While Will is here with us today, John could not be with us, John McLaughlin. However, John's kids are here today. I just want to... Exactly. Stephen, let me ask you, how long ago did you see the film?
I saw the film both this morning and I saw it about 3 weeks ago.
Okay, so did you learn anything about your dad from the stories in this performance, or had you heard the stories of what it was like already?
I learned a lot more, a lot of the stories that actually went on down there. Like, I wasn't privy to all the talks between my dad and Will, and through this I learned a lot more about what it was actually like to be in their situation.
Well, thanks to you so much to you guys for being here, all right?
Thank you.
All right, you guys, we got to wrap things up, but Will, a final thought from you. What do you hope people take away from World Trade Center?
Well, you know, this poster is very powerful. If you look at it, I keep saying, look at those 2 men, how insignificant we are amongst those towers. We're here today because of the love of men such as Antonio Rodriguez, who switched spots with me, Dominic Pizzulo, who tried to get us out, and countless others that gave their lives. And then those that came in to pull us out, and the love and the support from our wives who are very strong. And all that combined symbolizes what this movie's about, the positive. There's always going to be the people who say it's too soon, and that's okay. Oliver is bringing you, along with this talented cast, the truth of that day. And we're one of thousands of stories. That's all it is. And we're very fortunate to be here.
Thanks to you guys so much for being here. Thank you for all your questions. It's been great. And of course, thanks to Oliver, Nick, and Michael for joining us. A reminder, World Trade Center's in theaters August 9th. Most of all, though, thanks to Will Jimeno, John McLaughlin, and all of those who risked and in many cases lost their lives September 11th, 2001, almost 5 years ago. We'll see you soon.